Well, good evening, y'all. Can you believe it's been a year? Y'all ready for a douche?
What?
Remember when we did the douche last year?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, it's good to be here. So tonight we're going to talk about energy. And as you know, as we go on in time, whether it's with age or whether we go on with just plumb wearing ourselves out, energy is a huge issue, and that's a problem that I'm seeing more and more come in to see me for. They're looking for energy. Do we see folks out there in the world looking for energy? Yes? What are they doing for it? Yeah, I was at the airport. I don't remember which one. Let me think if I can remember which one. One of them this morning. It wasn't Indianapolis because I got off the plane and ran to the next plane as they were boarding. So it wasn't that one. So it must have been Atlanta. It had to be Atlanta. And this guy he had just bought him one of those big, energy drinks. And what's the challenges with those energy drinks?
You reach a plateau and you gotta have more and more.
Yes. What else? It gives you energy, then you drop.
Yeah.
It's not real energy, it's false energy. Now, what is something that people, what do they look for? What tools do they use out there? What's in those drinks that they're looking for? Caffeine is a big one, yes. Some people it's sugar. The folks come to me, they're either drinking coffee, they're drinking soft drinks, or they're drinking, one of these drinks that just, energy drinks. And they come to me looking for a healthy energy pill. But they're not getting to the right issue. Why are they tired?
They're overextending themselves.
Yeah. And so you've got to get to the root cause. I just found out just before I came in that one of my fire trucks has some serious problems. And we know that the other day we were looking for a missing person using the truck, and it's an old 1982 military pickup truck, ton truck. And on that truck, we've got a sled in it that we use for fighting wildland, that we can go in and we can get people, and we can take them and we can get them out. We've got really aggressive tires on it, and the chains, we can climb trees. I mean, that truck's amazing. In the wintertime, that's our foundation truck because we live up in the mountains. And on those chains, we have ice breakers. And literally, I can go down the mountain, and it's pretty steep, and I can put the brakes on, and it stops. Those chains are just amazing. And so I depend on the truck as I go in towards those winter months. And one of my lieutenants had taken it down the mountain to get fueled up. And while he was at the gas station, it died. So we had it hauled over to the mechanic by wrecker, and he thought it was just a fuel pump. But he's got to figure out what the issue is. Can we just go out there and pour diesel and make it run? Just pour it on the engine? No. Maybe we could try some gasoline and pour some gasoline on it. Is that going to run? Or maybe we'll grab some kerosene and pour some, or maybe get that jet engine that you're talking about. So they went and started having to diagnose it to find out root cause. And that's so important. And at first they thought it was the fuel pump. And he just called me, and that would have been an easy fix. Well, he's been looking for a little bit to try to find a fuel pump for a 1982, diesel. But he found out that's not it. Inside the engine, there's a piece, it goes off, I guess, the crankshaft that moves it, and it runs the oil pump. It broke. Now it's a lot more serious. So we've got to get to root cause. We can't just pour gasoline on it or have guys push it or whatever. We've got to fix the problem. And that's the problem. People in healthcare, they don't fix the problem. I've used this illustration here before, but it's what makes horse sense to me. And that is if I have a piece of sandpaper and I'm rubbing my arm, it's going to eat into the skin. And even though you put medicine on it, if I keep rubbing, is it going to? No. It's going to keep wearing the hide off of it. And you've got to stop the cause. So let's look and see this evening if we can find the cause of energy loss. And when people come in to me and say, well, I need an energy pill that's healthy or an energy drink that's healthy, and I start asking questions. And the first one I ask is, do you eat breakfast? Now, what if I went and got on the airplane this morning at 5:30 in Knoxville, and the pilot goes, we just don't like the fuel here in Knoxville. It's too expensive. And when we get to Atlanta, we might put a little in, but when we get to Minneapolis, we'll put fuel in it. And when we land in Grand Forks, when we land there, we'll fill that plane plumb full. Are you going to get in that airplane? No. And we think that we can run the body without putting fuel in the body. If a person is looking for energy, what's the best fuel? Food, real food. Yeah, real food. The best fuel I found, if a person is they're plumb slap tarred, is juicing. Juicing is amazing. And the reason juicing works so well is when we eat food, it takes as much vital force to digest that food as it does to go to the gym. And so you got, why do we eat food? Yes, it tastes good. Like that sandwich. It tasted really good. But also it gives us energy, right? And that's what we're after. But to digest that food, it takes energy. So I have X amount of energy in there, but I'm not going to get all the energy in that food because I'm having to expend energy to digest it. And it takes a lot of energy to digest food. Did you know that the second major expenditure of energy from the heart is digesting food? The second major energy that the heart produces energy is for digesting food. That's why a cardiac patient, you don't put them on a big meal. That's why so many people, when they sit down with that big old steak supper, and steak and taters and whatever, they have a heart attack because they're spending so much energy to digest that, and they already have a weak heart, the heart stops. So you want to look at a food that doesn't take a lot of energy if you're after trying to get things going. And when you juice, it's in the blood within 15 to 20 minutes. When you pull the fiber out, that fuel that's in the food, in the juice, in the food, is able to get into the blood, into the villi and the duodenum within 15 to 20 minutes. And that way you're having just copious amounts of fuel going to you, and you don't have the expenditure that you have in eating food with a lot of fiber. And then there's certain foods that can make it even tougher. Fats. Fats take a lot more to break down. And so when you're just eating those, and people say, well, don't eat carbohydrates. Well, actually some carbs are good for you. See, there's simple carbs and there's complex carbs. And the complex carbs, are your vegetables and your fruits. That's a good energy, and that's okay. If a person if they're looking at regular food, you look at the food that gives you the most energy and the food that pulls down on you. It takes a lot longer to eat food that is meat. It takes a lot longer to break down the fats in dairy. And so if you're eating, the food, just go around this building on the opposite side. And what's on the building on the opposite side over there? A garden. Yeah, that's the food that we run well on. And I had a guy come in the other day, and he said he I mean, he's got a lot of energy. This guy is in his 70s. He he works out, has a lot of energy, and people tell him, well, you can't get energy because you don't eat meat. You just eat, you eat rabbit food. And he says you got it. They were telling him you got to eat down at the gym. They said you have to have meat to have a lot of energy. And he said, well, what do cows eat? Do oxen have energy? Yeah, oxen have energy. What about Clydesdales? What do Clydesdales eat? Do they eat meat? No. Well, what about elephants? Do elephants eat meat? No. And so he said, these big animals on Earth that have all this energy, they didn't have to have meat to do that. Plus, when we do eat meat, and y'all don't know me, I grew up on a dairy farm. And then we went beef cows. So we did beef cows until I was probably through high school and college. So I come from that background. But when you eat meat, you're eating the nutrients not from that carcass, you're eating the nutrients from what that animal ate when it was alive. And so you're getting second-hand nutrition. Does that make sense? So you're getting the protein from what that cow ate. You're getting the vitamins from what that cow ate. So the food that we put on us is so important for energy. But you don't want food that's going to weigh us down. And the best foods is just on the other side of this building over here. It's what y'all grow in your garden. Right? Y'all grow gardens. And that's so nutritious. But let's back up a minute. When people come in and they're looking for energy, I also want to look and see if there's something else that might be lacking. And several of those items, we need to look at their blood. What things can we look at the blood to tell if someone's lacking that could affect their energy? Iron? Yes, that's exactly right. The iron. And we're seeing more iron deficiency. Iron, yes. I just ironed this shirt. Merely ironed it, and then I had to use an iron just to iron it again. It was all wrinkled from on the airplane. But I have a friend. He's an emergency room physician, and he was telling me that he has more and more patients come in due to restless leg into the emergency room, and it's due to iron deficiency. And because when you look at restless leg, 75% of restless leg is due to magnesium deficiency. Number 2 is dehydration. Number 3 is potassium deficiency. And number 4 is iron deficiency. And I asked him, why are you seeing it come up? Because we know 75% or so, we may be seeing some changes there because we're seeing more and more people coming that don't have enough iron. Why is that? What do you think it is? He's the physician. He said, Walt, you know what it is. He says, they're not eating food with iron in it. They're not eating their vegetables, their greens. What are they eating?
Carbs and sugars.
Yeah, processed foods. They're eating, I have people who come to see me that literally do not cook at home. Do you know people who don't cook at home? They don't cook at home. They eat out all the time. And they're going to McDonald's. They're going to Burger King. They're going to Hardee's. They're going to Pizza Hut. And they don't have the food in that food that has the iron. And so, yes, iron deficiency. It's a big one. What's another one that we can check the blood to see why someone's low in energy? B12, yeah. B12 is big out there. And a lot of folks are deficient in B12. And I had someone come in yesterday, and I looked at their labs that they brought to me from their physician, and they're having some energy issues. And the physician goes, "Oh, fine, your B12 is at this level," but it really wasn't good. It's such a disparity in what's normal. See, when you look at labs are what's normal in the average person. Well, I don't want to be the average health of people in some of the things, I want to have better. So I want to be higher on that B12. And I told her, I said, if you want energy, you need to increase your B12. Even though your doc said you're fine, try it, see what happens. And we're now finding that even though the lab says you're okay on the B12, if you feel better taking more B12, it's not going to hurt you. So B12 is really important. Is there anything else for guys that we look at for energy in the blood? Yes, T, testosterone. And it's not uncommon for guys to come in, and how old are you? 24. In your age, with a testosterone of in the mid-100. You should be 750, 800 at your age. And these guys are coming in with a testosterone in the mid-100s. But yet this guy who came in the other day with this really good number, his T at 70-some years old is 800 and some. He eats whole food plant-based. He goes to the gym. He's in excellent shape. He gets his sleep at night. And the three major things that take down T for guys is alcohol. He doesn't drink alcohol. He is sleep deprivation. He gets his sleep. And visceral fat. See, visceral fat elevates estradiol. Elevated estradiol lowers testosterone. And this guy doesn't have any visceral fat. He's out at the gym. He's exercising. He's walking. He's on the fire. He's one of our firemen at 70-some years old. And, I mean, he's going. But he takes care of himself. But testosterone is something that you want to find out what that number is if you're a fella. And so you've got to look at the blood. People will come in and say, Walt, do I need something for testosterone? I don't know. Walt, do I need to take B12? I don't know. Walt, do I need to take vitamin D? I don't know. A lady called me and she says, my husband's bleeding from the rectum. What do I need to do? I don't know. I can't look in there. You know, it could be ulcerative colitis. It could be internal hemorrhoids. It could be a torn polyp. It could be a cancer. We don't know until we look up in there and see what's going on. And so looking in the blood is a good thing. We were talking today coming back from the airport, and we were talking about tractors. I like tractors. I grew up on the farm. My wife says I go to therapy when I drive my tractor. We live up in the mountains, and I enjoy keeping the driveway, smooth or doing things with my tractor. And it's just, it calms me. Bush hogging, disking, plowing, whatever, it just calms me. And we were talking about the problems with tractors. Tractor stops. You got to have some guy drive out to look at it because they're not the tractor we grew up with. It's computers. It's electrical. And so let's say something your car's running not too right, and you take it in to the mechanic and he puts it on the machine. You say, would you put this on your diagnosis machine? And he looks there and he says, it's your number one plug. I'm going to have to put a new plug in, your number one plug. And he says, okay, I can take care of that. No, that's okay. I say, fine, I'll pay you for the diagnostics. I can change my plug. My daddy taught me how to change plugs. Oh, no, I'm a mechanic. I'm licensed. You're not a licensed mechanic. You can't change your plug. Yes, I can. My daddy taught me to change plugs. I can change plugs. But I needed the diagnostics because who knows what's going on with that thing today. The same thing is true for our bodies. By getting lab work, we can get the diagnostics to say my testosterone's low, or my B12's low, or my vitamin D. And vitamin D is another one that can affect your energy level. Is your vitamin D low? And so the problem again, vitamin D levels, if you go to your doctor, it says 30 to 99. Now it says 30 to 100. I'm just not used to seeing you sitting by a fella there. That's pretty nice.
The wedding's next Sunday.
Are you serious? No way. Congratulations, y'all.
That's why
Yeah, I can see that, yes. So when you look at your labs for vitamin D, if it says 32, the doctor goes, oh, fine. No, you're not fine. I can remember years ago if it was 33, we said, oh, it's too high. No. Dr. Arvo Khanna, who's a neurologist, if you went to him to check on brain function, that's what he specializes in brain function as people get older, he tells you as his patient, do not let your vitamin D be lower than 60. But you just went to the doctor and it was 32, so it was within the lab level. Lab levels, don't trust them. Do more research. If you went to Dr. Watkins, the physician that called me when we were coming back today, he wants you at 80 to 100 if you want a good immune system, or if you want to reverse osteoporosis or osteopenia. You want to be 100. And so you need to know those lab values. So what can we look at ahead of time? When you're looking at, I need energy. Well, real quickly, look at those 4 items. Guys, what's your testosterone? And then all of us, what's our vitamin D, what's our B12, and what is our what? Our iron. That's right, our iron. Now, where else can we get iron? Yes. Yeah, in the greens, yes, and blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses is an excellent source of iron. Also manganese, also potassium. Is that in the culture here to eat molasses? Okay, blackstrap. Now, do y'all like sorghum or molasses better? I like sorghum better, it tastes better. But sorghum doesn't have as much power in it as the molasses does. Yes?
What about grandma's molasses?
Grandma's molasses doesn't have as much. Yeah, it doesn't have as much.
Tastes better.
It does taste better. You're exactly right, like the sorghum. Any of y'all live in the South? Have any of y'all lived in the South? Okay. So I'll tell you something that y'all Southern folks will understand. So, and I may have told y'all this before, I don't remember, but anyway. So Johnny comes in for breakfast, and he sits down for breakfast, and Mama made some waffles. And Mama says, Johnny, you want some molasses? And Johnny says, how can I have molasses if I had no lasses? So you got to, maybe from the South to understand it. So we've looked at checking the blood first, but then looking at the food, the fuel that you're using. Are you eating good fuel? Is it processed? Is it sugars? Sugar's going to give you energy, but it's not going to last long. It's going to go, but then you're going to lose it. The next one that I asked the folks is, well, let's go backwards. If you have a steam train, what's the 2 major ingredients to make that train run? Water and coal. Yes. So you don't put toilet paper in there. You're going to put coal, and you don't just put coal. You put coal with high BTUs. There's all grades of coal, and there's some coal that has more BTUs, and it's going to produce more energy. Well, the other one is water, and you've got to have water for the body to run. And so many people today are dehydrated, and that can affect our energy. What are people drinking? Soft drinks. I had a guy come in maybe a year ago, maybe before I came here last time. I don't remember. And he was having some issues, and I asked him what he's drinking, and he said soft drinks. And I said, what are you drinking? And it was probably Mountain Dew. Y'all have Mountain Dew here? Can anybody tell me where Mountain Dew was developed? Yes, Knoxville, Tennessee. Yeah, Mountain Dew for our Appalachian Mountains, the dew on the mountains. And it was named after, and so, boy, that's our drink. It should be fine. No, it's nasty. It's got so much caffeine in it and sugar in it. And he was drinking 3 liters a day. 3 liters. And there's no wonder he's having the problems he was having. The challenge is, one, you got to drink water. But when you're drinking fluids that have caffeine, then what are you doing? You're dehydrating yourself, right? And so the water that you did drink, you're dehydrating yourself and you're not getting the benefits from that. And what I'm reading, and it seems pretty consistent out there, I don't know the initial research, but these are decent information it's coming from, and it's multiple sources. For every cup of coffee or for every cup of soft drink that has caffeine, you need to drink 6 waters to make up for what that 1 cup did in dehydration. So when this poor fellow was drinking 3 liters, that was definitely dehydrating. The other problem, and I talked about this last year because I had learned this just before coming here, and that is when you drink water, it's not just drinking water. Because you can drink water, and the way you drink the water, you can still be dehydrated. And it's something called free flow. When you drink more than 3 to 4 ounces of water at a given time, you urinate it off. And so you want to drink that water and have effect. It's like pouring a 5-gallon bucket over a motor plant, and it's going to just run off versus having a drip hose on it. It's going to have better saturation. And so you want to take your water and sip that water about 4 times every half hour, and you'll get your best saturation. Now, how much water you need? According to UC Davis, it takes how much water for a 5-year-old? Y'all have heard me say this before. A half a gallon. 4 water bottles to run a 5-year-old. 4 water bottles, a half a gallon, 2 quarts to run a 5-year-old. Up to 128 pounds. But let's say you weigh 126 pounds. That half a gallon is just to sit on the couch. It's not to work out in the garden. It's not to ride horses. It's not to go and run. It's not to go fight fire. You've got to have more water. In the state of Tennessee, they tell firefighters, you've got to have at least a gallon of water a day, proactively. And then if we fight a house fire, we have to drink more water. And if we're a wildland fire, we're drinking, if we do have wildland fire and we're on the line, they tell us to drink a gallon of water. It used to be every 2 hours. Now they tell us every hour and a half that we're supposed to be drinking our water bottle, consuming a gallon of water every hour and a half. So depending on on what you're doing, you need even more than that half a gallon of water if you're below 128 pounds or less. If we're over 128 pounds, then it's body weight divided by 2. Now, if you're a big person, like I had a guy that was 572 pounds, you don't take 572 and divide it by 2. There's a special formula for that, but most folks don't follow that, grotesquely obese. And so you take your basic water, your body weight divided by 2, divide that through the day, where you're drinking about 8 ounces every half hour, or but you want to drink about 3 to 4 mouthfuls every half hour is the goal. So water is important for our energy. The next one I ask is, are you getting sleep? And many times it's no. When does the day start?
Depends on who you're asking.
It's exactly right. Yeah. I've shared this story before, but let me share it again. It was June 5, 1863. General Lee was taking the Northern Virginia Army from Fredericksburg, I'll do it this way for y'all, from Fredericksburg to Culpeper. It was Friday morning, June 5. And Lincoln found out in D.C., he sends Hooker down, General Hooker, to try to cut Lee off. And he missed him. And Lee made it to Culpeper. Then from Culpeper, he went on to the Virginia, to the Shenandoah Valley, and then he went north up into Pennsylvania. And what battle then he pursued? Gettysburg, yeah. That if Hooker had gotten Lee before he got to Culpeper on that Friday, June 5, there wouldn't have been a Gettysburg. But he missed him. That same day, June 5, 1863, Elder and Mrs. White got in their buggy at Otsego, Michigan, and I usually don't say that right, but anyway, in Otsego, Michigan. Well, they went from Battle Creek, and they were having an evangelistic series in Otsego, and about 30 miles away, and they wanted to support this evangelistic effort. So they take off in their buggy, and they got there a little bit before dark, and they came to the house like about this time right now. Came to the house of the folks that kind of over things, and the head of the house, the man, asked Mrs. White if she would have prayer, because they were going to have sundown worship, bringing on the Sabbath. And so she puts her hand on Elder White's shoulder, and she starts to pray. And she goes into vision. And what vision was that? It was a health message. Now, if you read Mrs. White's account of that vision, she says it's June 6th. And so I'm trying to figure out, she says it's June 6th, but yet Lee's going from Fredericksburg to Culpeper. History says it's June 5 on multiple cases. So I validate June 5, and then I look at the calendar. Friday, that first Friday, first Friday in June in 1863, it's the 5th. Did she make a mistake? Why did she write June 6th? The sun was down. So I called the White estate, and I said, the only thing I can think of is it's after sundown that she had the major part of this vision, because it was just going down when she started the vision. I said, the only thing I can think of, it was after sundown. And they said, that's exactly right. Our pioneers counted when the sun went down as a new day every day. Now, why did they say that? Why did they do that? The Bible said that. Yeah. Genesis 1, from even to even. So, what's the first major event that we do of the day? We sleep. Yeah. Right? So, we proactively sleep. We do not reactively sleep. Now, I left my phone over in the room. When do you charge your cell phone? Do you charge it tonight so you can use it today? No.
Last night for today.
Yeah. If my phone was dead, I can't charge it tonight, so that can I use it now? It's plumb dead. And so that's the way our bodies are. We've got to, in just a short bit, we're going to get some sleep, but that's for us to run tomorrow, not today. And how many times have you heard people say, I need to get me some sleep so I can get me some energy. I ain't got no energy. Let me get me some sleep tonight. It's done. It's late. You're over it. Tonight, your sleep tonight is for tomorrow. The problem is your tiredness from today. Even if you get your 8 hours tonight, may not be adequate because you didn't get enough sleep last night. It takes a couple days for the body to make up. And you actually don't, and physiology tells us you don't make up for lost sleep. It's just finally you've got enough now, you're going. And so where people say, well, I'll make up for it, you're just tearing down the body. And that's tough. When you look at sleep, there's three important components of sleep for energy. Harvard says that a tired brain produces less energy than a non-tired brain. And so even though you work those long hours, according to Harvard, you're more efficient if it's not a tired brain. Have we experienced that? Yes. Have you ever been plumb tired and you just can't think? Yeah, I get that way. And so you go, I got to get some sleep, but I got to get this done. But I got to get some sleep because I can't think to get it done. And I don't have the energy to get it done. we need to get the sleep. So there's three major components for sleep, and that is the hours of sleep. We need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. You need the hours before midnight. We know it's called the glymphatic system. From 9 to 10, our brain does a deep cleaning. It's a lymphatic system in the brain. We know that from 10 to midnight, then it's going to do a thorough clean. So those hours before midnight are worth twice the hours after midnight. So many people come into me and I ask them, what time do you go to bed? And they tell me they go to bed 1, 2, maybe 3. I had a lady yesterday and she says, I go to bed between 1, 2, or 3. She works for, she's in an extremely high position working for the Rockefellers. High expectations. And so she has to stay awake all that time to get that done, because if she doesn't, they'll fire you. I mean, they expect, you know. And I said, so what if you do this? You're going to bed, say, 2 o'clock. What time are you getting up? 6. Okay. She says, I get between 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. I said, okay, let's say you stay at 3 to 4 hours sleep a night. What if you just move the clock back? Go to bed at 9 o'clock and get up at 1 o'clock. Those hours before midnight are like double. I said, now the best is get the 8 hours sleep, but at least move it back. Who's heard of Neil Nedley? Okay, when Nedley was in med school, I think Neil did it in 3.5 years, he said. A lot of the guys would, when he took pre-med, they would stay up 1, 2 in the morning studying. He would go to bed at 9 o'clock and get up at 3 o'clock. And he did the same thing when he was at Loma Linda. He was getting those hours before midnight, and even though he just got 6 hours sleep, that's all, it was like he got how many hours sleep? 9. Like he got 9 hours sleep. The hours before midnight were double. Then you got the 3 after, 9. Yeah, exactly. So it's still good to get the full 9. Dr. Walter Strachan, who's heard of Dr. Walter Strachan? Strachan would go to bed between 4:30 and 5, usually 4:30, and get up at 1. So he's getting 8 to 8.5 hours sleep, but he was getting 7 to 7.5 before midnight. And so I encourage this lady, go to bed at 9 and get those hours before midnight. And the last thing on sleep is you want that contiguous sleep. You want to have that REM sleep. And so, you know, if it's like those guys who have prostate problems, are up, 6, 8, 7 times a night, well, we got to figure out the prostate problems so that they can get that long sleep. You've got to get into REM sleep, those 4 stages of sleep. If you don't, then you don't have adequate sleep. And that affects our energy. There are some herbs. Ashwagandha. Who's heard of ashwagandha? Ashwagandha is an excellent herb. Astragalus. Who's heard of astragalus? That's another excellent herb. Rhodiola. Holy basil. Who knows what sang is? Sang. Like you sang a song? Sang. It's what we call ginseng. We call ginseng sang. And if you're going out picking ginseng, you tell your wife, well, honey, I'm going out singing today. I'll see you tonight. And that's what it means to pick ginseng. We call it singing.
You guys have it down there?
Oh, yeah. The best in the world is in Appalachia. That's why China wants our sang.
Is it protected?
Very much so.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, you can go to jail real quick. Yeah. You can only pick it, harvest it next month, October, and you've got to have a permit if to do it if it's not on your land. But it's just like hunting bear. It's got to be at a certain time. And unfortunately, our Appalachia people are getting diluted because of move-ins. And the old Appalachian mind learned from the Cherokee, and that was you leave one for someone else. You leave one to still continue to grow, and you leave another one out there for if you might need it, and for emergency. So you only took 25% because you didn't just rape it and take every bit of it. And then because we're losing the Appalachian mindset, culture, people are going in there and just wiping it out, and that's dangerous because sang is so good for us. Maca, who's ever heard of maca? Maca's real good. Yeah, maca is good for energy. And goji, has anybody ever done goji? Goji juice is good for energy. Chia seeds. Chia seeds are really good to helping. They got the omega-3s, the omega-9s, but the omega-6s, but they call them little magic. And it just, when you put those chia seeds in your drink, it's just a real good source of getting energy. The other item, we talked about water, but the other one is trace minerals. Trace minerals are so important. If you look, you've got your fats, your proteins, and your carbohydrates. Now I like complex carbohydrates. So fats, proteins, complex carbohydrates. And then you've got vitamins. And vitamins are the catalyst. Remember catalysts in chemistry? A catalyst is something that makes something happen. So if you don't have the vitamins kick on, then the fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates. So if you don't have enough vitamins, if it's not running at 8 cylinders, then even though you're eating enough fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates, they're not running at 8 cylinders. Even though you ate 8 cylinders worth, you got to have this guy at 8 cylinders to turn these guys onto 8 cylinders. But there's another catalyst that's required, and that's minerals. You got to have minerals at 8 cylinders to turn vitamins on to 8 cylinders, to turn fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates on to 8 cylinders. And that's a huge issue because people do not get enough minerals. Why do we not get enough minerals? The soil. The soil's eroded. What else? Distilled water? Pardon? There's and that's a good question.
Purified water, that's really not the best.
The question is, do we drink water with meals? No. And we absorb the best of the minerals, we're told, at mealtime. So whether it has the minerals in the water or not may not be the big issue. Anything else? How are you doing tonight? Anything else, the way people eat that don't have minerals? Processed foods. Do processed foods have a lot of minerals? No. So, one, the soil doesn't have it. They're not amending the soil. Two, they're eating foods that don't have the minerals. Therefore, folks don't have enough minerals then to kick the vitamins on. Even though they're eating adequate vitamins, they're eating adequate fats, proteins, and complex carbohydrates, you're still not going to get the proper energy production like in an engine because you don't have the minerals. And so, how do we fix that? Amend your soil. Grow your own food, amend your soil, and don't eat processed foods. But you can also consume extra mineralization, and that being trace minerals, liquid trace minerals. And liquid trace minerals are a great way to increase your energy. Another one is B vitamins. Now, B vitamins help with energy production. You don't want to take a B vitamin for stress right before you go to sleep. Choose another tool. Choose vetiver, choose lavender, choose something, lithium orotate, magnesium. That's a great tool because that's going to help you sleep. But B complex, your B vitamins, right before you go to bed, B vitamins give you energy. And so it may not be the best time to take a B vitamin. But B vitamins are huge in giving us energy. Why don't we have enough B vitamins? Yes.
Why do they make your skin red? Your blood.
Your urine, it'll make your urine orange.
Urine orange. I mean, what makes your blood like your
Oh, yes. On niacin.
on an empty stomach or something?
Well,
You can get on fire with a B complex.
it's the niacin.
And niacin?
The niacin can give you a flush.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. It can. It's the B3, the niacin. Now, there's different B3s. There's niacinamide, there's niacin, but it's the niacin that's giving you the flush. Now,
Won't hurt you?
no, it won't hurt you. Mary Lou took something, I forgot what it was she was taking. We got some new product that she was trying, and I mean, her arms went crazy red. Her face went crazy red. Her chest was crazy red. And she just got a major flush off of it. It had so much niacin in it. That's what it is. Why are we deficient in B vitamins? Because the number one diagnosis in America, stress. Stress increases adrenaline. When adrenaline goes up, the body has a fire extinguisher that dumps magnesium, but it also it dumps B vitamins. And so, yes, we can eat foods with B, but a lot of time, because of the soil that we have out there, because of what our situation is, we sometimes have to have B supplementation. But B is really important for energy, and we're dumping B, we're dumping magnesium, we're dumping lithium on, we're dumping E, we're dumping C, we're dumping zinc, which those guys are important for our immune system. Other guys like B and lithium and magnesium are needed for the next stressor, and that's why we crash, and a mental crash with the next stressor, because we've already wiped out those other three items, B, lithium, and magnesium. So that's another reason we're tired, is because our stress dumps the B, and so managing stress is really important for the your energy, but we may have to have some extra B. Who's ever used peppermint essential oil? Okay. I had this gal that was working for me for a number of years, and then she graduated from high school, went to college, and moved away. And her senior year, halfway through her senior year, she came up to me and she said, Walt, she said, and she'd worked there since her freshman year, and she said, you know, I kind of get that coffee's probably not a good thing for me. Well, it took her a while to figure that out. And I said, it's true. I said, do you know what a cattle prod is? A hot stick? Yes. I said, caffeine is like shocking your body constantly, just shocking. You may not feel it, but that's what's going on to your nerves. You're just overstimulating the nerves. It's not healthy for you. It's a diuretic. There's just a lot of issues. And she says, well, I drink a cup of coffee on the way to school every morning. I need it to wake me up. Is there anything I can do? I said, try this. I said, get you and put 2 drops of peppermint essential oil, 2 drops peppermint essential oil in a water bottle. Now, it can't be plastic because essential oils will melt plastic, and you don't want to drink plastic. So it needs to be either a metal water bottle or a glass water bottle. Do y'all drink out of mason jars here? We do, but well, where I'm from, they're usually drinking something else that looks like water. But what you do is you put 2 drops of peppermint essential oil in there. And she came back to me a week later and she says, well, I have more energy drinking the peppermint water than I drinking my cup of coffee. And so that's a great source of energy. There's another one. I had a lady come in one night. We had gone into work early one morning, and it must have been it was in the wintertime, and it was around 5 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden someone's banging on the door, and we looked, and it was this lady we knew. We went to church with her. And I go and open the door and let her in, and I said, what's wrong? Because you just don't go banging on doors at 5 in the morning. And I said, what's wrong? She says, I have to go to Florida, and I am so tired. Do you have anything? She'd already driven 45 minutes to get to me. And she said, I have to go to Florida, and I am so tired. Do you have anything to help me? I said, yes, go home, go to bed. I said, she's a single lady, or was at that time. I don't know if she still is, but at that time she was a single lady. I said, you got 2 young boys in that car. Don't kill them. Go back home and go to bed. She says, I can't. I have to go to Florida. I'm going to Florida. Okay. What do you have to give me? So I went and got a bottle of cayenne pepper extract. And I got a bottle of water. Now that's different than essential oil. It's an extract, so it doesn't melt the plastic. So I got a bottle of water, a pint of water, and I put 18 drops of cayenne pepper in there. And I said, this may be a little stout, but this is what I use. And I said, I want you to drink this and keep buying water bottles and all the way to Florida. And we had prayer that God would bless it and that she wouldn't kill them kids and herself. Well, after the trip, she came back and I saw her at church and she said it worked. I stayed awake. It woke me up. And so if you're looking for energy in the first of the morning, you could use some cayenne pepper. Now, what else is the cayenne pepper good for? The heart. Yeah, it's excellent. It's also an excellent catalyst. Remember we said the vitamins are a catalyst and the minerals are a catalyst? Well, if you're making an herb formula, a lot of herbalists will put a little cayenne in there, and it makes them work better synergistically. It makes them work better. And so cayenne pepper can be very beneficial. It's just you don't want to cook with cayenne because that will change the molecular state to where it can harm the mucosa in the stomach. So peppermint oil, did you know that 1 drop of peppermint essential oil, it takes 28 cups of peppermint tea to equal the same medicinal benefit? That's why I like extracts so well. It's just they're so potent, super concentrated. And here you're doing 2 of them. The other is you can daub it on your wrist. You guys that have a mustache, you can daub it on your mustache and breathe it. And it kind of keeps you awake. On the wrist, what's it doing? Transdermally goes into the blood, just like a nicotine patch or a nitro patch. And so you can daub it there. You can add some to your shower in the early morning. Who's ever used peppermint soap, like Dr. Bonner's? It kind of can wake you up. You can also put it in a diffuser and breathe it. I know a lady, she's a school teacher, and literally she keeps her kids in that classroom where she wants it. Any of y'all school teachers? You are? Okay, so she uses diffusers in her classroom to manage where the brain is on those kids. So she'll use, if she needs them to crank up a little bit, where they're a little sleepy or whatever, she cranks them up. Or if she needs to kind of crank them down a little bit, she'll use essential oils that crank them down a little bit. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Now this one doesn't make sense. You're plumb tired, but I say you need to have exercise to have energy. It's true. Exercise increases energy. It increases the blood flow. It increases the oxygenation. There's just a lot of physiology that takes place. And remember when I mentioned to y'all before that the top neuroscientists around the world say that the best medication for the brain is exercise. WHO said this back probably 12 years ago. The best medication for the body, they said, was exercise. And they asked every physician in the world to prescribe this medication to their patients, and that exercise was that. And that medication was exercise. But exercise, we're told in Inspiration that perfect health is what? Circulation. Yes. So how do you get circulation? Exercise. Yeah. So exercise is just critical for brain function. And does brain function affect energy? It does. Absolutely. And so exercise, and now Dr. Walter Kempner, a German physician at Duke University, found the best way to exercise the adult body. That's all he worked on was adults that I know of. All of his research was on adults. He may have worked on kids, I don't know. But on adults, he says adults need to exercise 4 times a day for optimum. He said 3 times a week's not good enough. 5 times a week's not good enough. He says you want to exercise 4 different times during the day. Now, there's no way that I would have told my father, my grandfather, or my great-grandfather that they needed to go to the gym. Why? They were farmers. Did they have exercise 4 times a day? Yeah, they had all day long. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were dairy farmers, and we literally got up at 3:30 in the morning, ate, and then went and milked cows. And many times, if it was wintertime, even in the summer, I mean, Dad, there's stuff you got to do. And Dad was out there, lots on the tractor. Now, obviously, the tractor doesn't as much exercise, but he was exercising all day long. And so Kempner found we need to exercise 4 times a day. Just do 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 4 times a day. Go fast for 3 minutes, slow for 1 minute. Fast for 3 minutes, slow for 1 minute. If you can't get up and exercise, clap your hands. Okay, y'all try this. Try this. We're not clapping in church, y'all. Clap your hands. Stop. Do it again. Stop. Do you feel the tingling? That's called microcirculation. You're increasing the circulation by clapping your hands. And so our patients that were in wheelchairs, we would have them clap their hands in physical therapy. Now try this one. This one's real cool. I may have had y'all do this before. Have I had you rub your ears before? Have I had you do that? Okay, rub your ears. Rub it real good and hard. I mean real good and hard. I mean real good. Okay, feel that? Well, I was doing a radio show. I used to do a radio show at night. Y'all remember when I first started coming here? Remember on Friday nights I did a radio show out of New York City? So I'm doing this radio show, and there's this lady in New York City who was listening, called in, and she said, last week you had us rub our ears. Now this lady was, she was not bedfast, but she didn't get out of bed because she said she didn't have the energy to get out of bed. And so while we were doing that, I had everybody on the radio rubbing their ears for about 2 minutes.
Were they left on there?
Pardon?
Anything left?
Yeah. Hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. So I had them do it for about 2 minutes. She calls back, she calls in the next week, and she said, I've had energy. She says, I got up and I did something. She says, I keep doing it and I've been out of bed all week. By rubbing her ears, she increased circulation. Another thing that you can do, patting yourself. You know, getting a newspaper and putting tape on it and hitting yourself. Don't bruise yourself, but pat yourself. You know, that gets circulation going. And folks will say, well, I can't get out of my chair. I can't get out of my bed. You can do that. Here's an example of not getting out of the bed. There's a guy I knew. He was from Australia. And he went to this elderly preacher's house. And the preacher had a reputation for many years of doing a lot of Bible studies. Y'all got, what, 5 right now going? I mean, he just did a lot of Bible studies. And so this other preacher who is visiting him, he says, isn't it hard on you, Pastor so-and-so, not to be doing Bible studies? Because he was bedfast. He goes, oh no. He says, I'm still doing as many, maybe more Bible studies now. He says, what are you doing? You can't get out of bed. He says, look. And this was before the days of cell phones. So he has his landline phone in the bed with him. And then he picks up a phone book. He says, I just go through the phone book. He says, when I run out of Bible studies, I go through, I call somebody. Would you like to do some Bible studies? And he just keeps going down and finds somebody. Well, now he's got a new one, and he doesn't have to use the phone book until someone else, because he only has so much time. And his day's full of giving Bible studies. And if someone drops off, he just calls another person, and he's doing Bible studies in bed. Isn't that cool? There's no reason to be in bed lying around not doing nothing. If we're not able to get up and exercise, we can still do some things to get circulation. But if you're able to get up and move, then walk. And my dad, I remember Dad, this was, 22 years ago. About right now, 22 years ago. Dad went and had a quadruple bypass. Yeah, it was last month. It was in August, 22 years ago. And he had the quadruple bypass, and he was home, and he called, and we were talking, and he was irritated because he had been to the cardiologist that day, and the cardiologist says, you've got to walk around the block. And Dad says, I can't walk around the block. And the doc kept saying, you need to walk around the block. And I said, Dad, you can walk around the block. And he goes, no, I can't. Then I had to change. I had to say, yes, sir, you can walk around the block. See, I couldn't say again, yes, you can, because that would have been assassinating. So I had to say, yes, sir. Yes, sir, you can walk around the block. He goes, son, you don't understand. I cannot walk around the block. I said, yes, sir, you can walk around the block. He goes, okay, tell me how. Oh, he was mad at me. That was still, I was going against him. You were never sass, Dad. And I said, can you walk from your recliner and the family room to the mailbox? And they lived in a subdivision down in Orlando. He said, I can do that. I said, that's all I'm asking. Walk from your chair out to, and that would probably be equal from here to that white van out there, or gray van. And back. That's it. Not much. So the next day, did you do it? I did it. That's not walking around the block. I said, Dad, that's all I'm asking. So he does it for several days, and then I was calling him every day, and I said, Dad, can you walk to the neighbor's mailbox? Now the neighbor's mailbox is probably from here to Walt, from his mailbox. I said, can you walk to the neighbor's mailbox and back? And he goes, yeah, I can do that. He's still mad at me, and because I disputed him. And y'all remember parents that you couldn't dispute? Remember that? Yeah. My grandparents were even worse. And so I had him, and then we just kept going. And by the end of 1 month, Dad had walked back and forth from here. He was in the middle of the block, all the way up halfway to the other side of the block. He walked back. Mom get in the car and ride it in case he had some acute episode. At the end of the month, he'd walked halfway around the block and then walked back. I said, Dad, do you know what you just did? I said, tomorrow, keep going. Instead of going backwards, go plumb the other way, and you've just walked around the block. So as you start out, and you can't walk like you need to, just increase little by little. And when I get people exercising, I say, don't walk and from here to here, and here's where you have plumb pain. And you're so sore and so upset because you can't get out of bed or out of the chair. Don't go 100% like that. Go about 80%. Because if you go to here, you ain't going to walk again. But go to here. And as you keep going from here to 80, then you can keep doing more and more and more. And yes, there can be physical limitations, but you just keep those in mind and use what's called horse sense. And y'all know what horse sense is. Common sense. And just don't overdo it. But exercise increases energy physiologically. A couple more. Next, look at medications. There are medications that can lower your energy level. If you have a good pharmacist, don't talk to your doctor. Well, let me back up. You may find better outcomes talking to your pharmacist. See, pharmacists today have a doctorate degree in pharmaceuticals. They actually have more knowledge on medications than the physician. I can remember in the days before the PharmDs, they didn't have a doctorate. They had a master's degree. And they would come to me and they'd say, Walt, Dr. So-and-so, he's doing this. This is bad. And he would write on the pharmacy notes, danger, should not be doing this. And the Dr. Smith would go, listen, I've been doing this before you were even born, boy. It's fine. Well, no, it wasn't. Because the boy in pharmacy had more knowledge. But the old doc just did what he wanted to do. But then when they became doctorates in pharmacy, it was harder for them to do it because they now had a PhD. And your pharmacist, if you take meds, if he's a PharmD, he knows those meds. And ask your pharmacist, am I taking any medications that could be affecting my energy? Well, if they are, look if there's another medication that could be substituted, or better yet, why are you taking that med? Can you do something to get rid of that problem so you don't even have to take that medication? But you do want to look at medications because medications can cause a person to have lack of energy. It can be what's called a side effect. It could be a thyroid problem. So again, go back to the lab work. Find out what your TSA is, especially your TSH. I went through TSA today. Look at your TSH. And look at your T3, your T4, your free T3, your free T4. Look at your thyroid labs and see if you're having thyroid problems. That could be why you don't have any energy. And so here you're doing all this other stuff and it's not fixing it. Okay, do you have a tractor with a lift on it? Yeah. Okay, so you're going along and you notice that it's just not lifting good. You can't lift that bale of hay or whatever, it's just not lifting right. And you look behind you, and here you're trailing some liquid behind you. Well, you can have this feller back here sit on the top and pour 5-gallon buckets of hydraulic fluid in there, or you can fix the leak.
Do that first and fix the leak later.
Yeah, exactly, because you got the day to finish. You better watch out, boy. So what happens is we can have a thyroid problem, but here we are doing all this other stuff. It's not gonna, you gotta fix the problem. You gotta change that number one plug. So having those diagnostics are important. Depression. Right now, stress is the number one diagnosis in America. WHO says that soon depression will be the number one. So there's must be a lot of depression out there. Depression can cause lack of energy. And so you want to try to address that issue of depression. And a great resource that you can get is, again, Dr. Neil Nedley. He has a book called Depression, the Way Out. Depression, the Way Out. Get that book, read it, and apply those techniques in there. But depression can lower your energy. Another one that we talked about is anemia, not having enough iron. Another one is chronic fatigue. You've heard of chronic fatigue syndrome. Well, syndrome means what? They don't know what the cause is. Well, that's not good when you go to a doctor and the doc says you have chronic fatigue syndrome. That means he doesn't know why you have it. You want to know why you have it. Well, a major reason of chronic fatigue is blown adrenals. Blown adrenals because of poor nutrition and stress. Stress is the big one. But poor nutrition and stress together blows your so what do you do? Y'all have nettle up here, right? Sting and nettle? Sting and nettle is one of my favorites for the adrenals. Sting and nettle tea. But manage the stress. You've got to take care of those adrenals. And then also that's a major cause of why people have thyroid problems is because they have blown adrenals. So take care of your adrenals. COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that's being changed to COLD, chronic obstructive lung disease, because they don't think we know what pulmonary means. And so we're starting to see that now. But what's the problem there? There's two diagnoses. Used to be three diagnoses. Asthma used to fall within COPD. It doesn't anymore. It's out there by itself now. COPD is now because of emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Not acute bronchitis, but chronic bronchitis. So if you have emphysema or if you have chronic bronchitis, that can cause issues with energy. Asthma can too. And so you just want to address those issues. Diabetes and kidney problems, kidney function. Why do we see so much kidney function issues today? Not drinking enough water, absolutely. It's like a dam. We've got a dam near us. They just shut it down this past Tuesday morning. They've got to clean out everything, and it's going to take several months to clean it all out. These tubes that run from the dam, it's 7 miles up to the lake that these tubes have. And so it takes 2 weeks to drain it, takes a while more to clean all those, and they do it every 20 years or whatever. And so right now we don't have water running through them turbines. Are we making electricity? No. Your kidneys have to have water to run properly. When you're dehydrated, they don't run at full function. That's why you have blood pressure problems, because the kidneys are the switches that run the blood pressure. And if they're not running at full function, then the switches aren't running right, and it could be your blood pressure is all the reason you have blood pressure is you're not drinking enough water. What else? Lack of water. Too much salt, yes. Salt's a huge issue. Medications. Now, I was talking to a lady today on the airplane from Atlanta to Minneapolis. Y'all are getting ready to have a nurses' strike in Minneapolis for 3 days. And so this is crazy, totally crazy. You're a nurse. It's crazy. Why do people strike in healthcare? They should not strike in healthcare. So the nurses in Minneapolis aren't happy with whatever that is going on. And so they said, okay, we're going to strike. But we'll strike between this time and this time. But you need to find some pool nurses to come in and cover us. So what they're doing is tomorrow, these pool nurses are going to, tomorrow morning, third shift, they're going to give report to the supervisor, not to the next nurse coming on. They're going to give report to a supervisor. That's not as good because you need one-on-one. They're going to give report to the supervisor. Then they're out of there. But they can't. But the pool can't come in until these nurses are gone because they don't want any problems with them being scabbers. You know what scabbers are. And so there might be some problems. We don't want union problems. So now the union girls are gone, guys. And now the next wave can come in. We've kept them separated. They'll come in. Now they'll get report from the supervisors. Then they'll do that for 3 days, give report to nurses. And then at the end of 3 days, the pool nurses will give report to the supervisors. And then they leave. And now we can bring back in the regular nurses. Isn't that crazy? Plumb crazy. Well, anyway, so I'm talking to this nurse coming out of Atlanta. She's 72 years old. And so she's going to be now the nurse down in Minneapolis. And she has diabetes. And she's taking this medication and for the diabetes. And she said, well, I also have kidney problems. I said, does metformin cause kidney problems? Oh, yes, metformin causes kidney problems. She hadn't put the two together. She's a nurse, and she's taking care of your patients tomorrow down in Minneapolis. And so she's saying, yeah, I have diabetes, and metformin kills the kidneys. And then a few minutes later, she says, yes, I have kidney problems, and I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure what to. Are you taking metformin? Because it was like a light bulb. Oh yeah, that's it.
Sleep deprived.
Yeah. So anyway, kidney problems, dehydration, salt, but it could be because of medications. Another one, the last one I'll talk about is lighten your load. And that is the pot calling the kettle black. because there's so much to be done. It's so much to be done. But we have to learn from Elder White. You know, he crashed. And she said he would have lived so many more years if he had taken care of his health. And that's so hard for us because there's so much good that needs to be done. And it's only because I have a son and a wife that hog tie me. And I don't like that because I want to get the stuff done. It was funny. The other day, my son takes a week off for vacation. Did y'all meet Walter when y'all were there? So he took his family camping. Well, he happened to be somewhere that he had phone service. Because camping in the mountains, he didn't have phone service. So he's out doing something, he'd been camping, and his phone dings. Well, see, Mary Lou took scheduling away from me because I'm not allowed to schedule, because I just schedule all the time. And so I'm booked up. He's already got 30-some people on the list for 24. And yet he won't start scheduling them. So 23 is already plumb booked up. 24, he hadn't started, but he's got a list of 30-some places that January he'll call them back and place them. And his phone dings. Something came up on my schedule. And I put somebody on the schedule last week. And he calls me, Dad, you just added somebody to your schedule. Busted. Yes, I did, son. They need help. That's hard, though, isn't it? It's going to be a time as never before. We're told, Daniel 12:1. Yes? Is that what it says? It's going to get tougher and tougher. We think it's plumb crazy now. Wait till what's coming. How do we lighten the load? The only way is our spouses help us out. Yes? Does she help you out? Yes. Does he help you out? Sure. Absolutely. That's our job, to help our spouses. Have you learned? You got to take care of this guy, huh? Yeah. But can we lighten the load? And how do we know what to do? And the best thing is to ask God. You know, God, where do I cut back? Because there's so much needs to be done. But many times where we're under such a load, it then draws our energy. And we don't have the energy because we're plumb wore out. Y'all know what plumb means. I've been here enough that y'all know what plumb means. Totally. We're plumb wore out. And how do we adjust that? Because we want to be good stewards and we want to work hard and do what God wants us to do. But it's also, he tells us in inspiration, don't wear yourselves out in moderation. That's a tough one.
How do you do that without feeling guilty? Because
I haven't figured that out.
who's going to replace you?
The only thing I can think of is delegate and train the young ones.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
The ones with energy.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, to train y'all.
The ones that don't have a job yet.
Yeah,
Or something, you know,
it's difficult. It really is. Yeah. And again, it's prayer. It's prayer is the answer. And ask God to set your schedule. And just accept what we can do. And the other challenge is, what really makes me upset is I can't do on the fire ground what I used to do. And Walter reminds me that I'm the chief. I'm supposed to not be in the house fighting fire. But I enjoy doing it. But I just don't have the strength that I used to have. I can't do what I used to do. And as we get older, we just can't fit as much in as we used to.
I've been praying many times that God would take me beyond the human, and he has. But still, you've got to shorten.
Yeah, you do. And so pray. Ask God to help you with that one, lightening the load. So as you look at energy, the energy is not energy drinks. The energy is not, what's that thing that they have at the gas station, something 5-hour energy.
Shots.
It's not some upper medication. Look at physiology. Look at the cause provide your body what it needs, just like you do your tractor, just like you do your car. And if we would take care of our bodies like we do our tractor, we take care of our tractors better than our cars, because our granddaddies taught us that. Because the tractors is what makes that's what makes the money for that, for the farm. And I mean, the quickest way for me to get a whooping as a young boy was because we drove tractors as young kids, and you did not take that tractor out without checking the oil, greasing it, and greasing the implement. You just didn't do it because you could not allow it to wear out. Because if it wore out prematurely, you may not have the funds, and then you don't have the tractor to run, to do the hard work. So we got to take care of ourselves. Well, let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, it's difficult at times. There's fast items that we can grab, but we know that wears our bodies out. Lord, help us to take care of this machinery that you've given us, to follow those basic laws of health that you've given us, those keys to have energy. But also the big one, help us to know when to say no, so that we can say yes longer. Give us that ability to hear your Holy Spirit in how to take care of our bodies. And Lord, we thank you for Sabbath, that we can plumb stop. You've put up that stop sign another week, that we don't have to worry about work or school, and we can just be free for 24 hours. And Lord, we ask that you bless this Sabbath, and that we're able to enjoy it as you have given it for us, for our pleasure. But help us remember why it's there. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.